I moved into my college dorm in late August. It was my first time living away from home, and I was excited and honestly a little scared. The dorm was old, built sometime in the 60s with those narrow hallways and peeling paint that smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals and old carpet. It had that kind of smell you only find in places that have been lived in by hundreds of people before you. I got assigned to a room on the third floor. My roommate, Mark, was cool. He didn't talk much at first, which I liked because I'm not really the small talk type. The first few days were normal. Classes, hanging out in the cafeteria, the usual. But then things started happening. Little things at first. Stuff I didn't think much of. It started with the doors. Every time I came back from class, my door was slightly ajar. Not all the way, just enough that I'd notice it when I got in. I'd close it, lock it, check it twice, and walk away. But an hour later, it was always open again. At first, I thought maybe I was just forgetting to shut it completely. Mark would just shrug when I mentioned it. Maybe it's the old frame. They're probably warped or something. I wanted to believe him, so I did. Then my things started moving. Not a lot, just small stuff, my textbooks, my headphones, even my socks sometimes. I'd leave them on my desk or chair, and when I came back, they'd be somewhere else. I chalked it up to me being forgetful, that's what I told myself. But deep down, I knew I wasn't. I'm usually very organized, especially with my stuff. The first night it really hit me was about a week in. I was staying up late studying for a midterm. Around 2 a.m. I went to grab a water from the mini fridge. When I came back, my chair was pulled out like someone had been sitting there. My first thought was maybe I got up in my sleep and pulled it out. But that didn't feel right. I didn't sleepwalk. I've never sleepwalked. Then the sound started. It wasn't like a creak or a bump, it was something else. Something soft. Almost like breathing, but not mine. I tried to ignore it. I convinced myself it was the AC or maybe the pipes. Dorms are old, they make noises, but every time I tried to brush it off, I'd catch it again, the soft noise, barely there, just behind me. I told Mark one night jokingly that maybe the dorm was haunted. He laughed, said, "It's probably just the building settling, man. Old wood, old pipes, nothing creepy about it." I nodded, laughed with him, but that night I didn't sleep well. I kept feeling like I wasn't alone, even though I was. The next incident was the door again. This time I locked it, put a chair against it, and went to bed. About 30 minutes later, I woke up to the chair being moved. Not knocked over, not thrown down, just slid to the side like someone had nudged it. My heart froze. I sat up and listened. Nothing. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the dorm AC. I didn't sleep much that night. I just sat on my bed staring at the door, waiting for something I couldn't name. Morning came and I didn't tell Mark. I wasn't sure what I'd even say. He'd just laugh and call me paranoid. A few days later, I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth when I heard the soft noise again. This time it was coming from inside the room, from my side of the bed. I froze. I didn't move for what felt like 5 minutes, just listening. The noise stopped. When I finally turned around, nothing was there. No one, just my bed, the desk, my chair, everything exactly where it should be. By this point, I was scared. I started keeping my door locked at all times, even when I was inside. I started bringing my backpack into the room with me even when I just went to the bathroom. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was inside. And the thing is, I never saw anyone. Never a shadow, never a figure. Just the signs they or he, I started thinking, were there. Then it got worse. My food started disappearing, not all of it, just small things, snacks like chips or candy bars. I'd buy them, leave them on my desk, and the next day they'd be gone. At first I thought maybe Mark was joking, taking them for fun, but he said he didn't. And then I started noticing things in my room being slightly different. My books would be open to random pages. My laptop would be closed when I was sure I'd left it open. One night I stayed up, determined to catch whoever it was. I had my phone flashlight on and sat on my bed watching the door. Hours passed. Nothing. I started to feel ridiculous. Maybe I was imagining it all. Maybe I was just stressed from school. I put my phone down, lay back and tried to sleep. About an hour later, I woke up to the sound of something hitting the floor. My phone. It had fallen off the bed and the screen cracked. But that wasn't what scared me. What scared me was that when I picked it up, it was on and the flashlight was on, pointed at the door. I didn't touch it. I didn't move. The flashlight had been off when I fell asleep. I knew then that someone had been in my room. I just didn't know who or why. I called campus security the next morning. They came, looked around, checked the locks, asked if I'd lost my keys. I told them everything. They were polite, but it was clear they didn't really take me seriously. "Dorms are old," one officer said. "Things happen." I wanted to scream at him. I wanted him to understand that this wasn't just an old dorm making noises. This was someone coming into my room when I was asleep, when I was gone, moving my things, watching me without ever showing themselves. Nothing happened for a while after that, probably because I started being extra careful. I installed a cheap motion sensor camera I had from home, hid it on my bookshelf. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't want to sound crazy, and then one night I caught him. I had gone out with friends, came back around midnight. My camera had recorded someone opening my door, slipping inside, rifling through my backpack. I paused the video, my stomach in knots. It was a guy, someone from my floor. I didn't know his name. He was wearing a hoodie, gloves, and a mask pulled down just enough so I could see his eyes. I couldn't breathe. My own dorm, my own room. He'd been here maybe all along. The next morning I went to campus security again, showed them the footage. This time they believed me. They said they would investigate, but the guy had already skipped the dorm that day. I never saw him again. After that, I moved rooms. I asked to be on a different floor. I told Mark I was leaving, and he nodded, relieved. He'd probably suspected something, but didn't want to get involved. Even now, months later, I can't shake it. Every time I move into a new place, I double-check the locks, the doors, the windows. I look around my room at night before I go to bed, making sure everything is exactly where it should be. I never thought living in a college dorm would be terrifying. It all started when I moved into a dorm in a mid-sized university in the Midwest. The building was old, built sometime in the 70s with peeling paint in the hallways. My roommate was out of state for the semester, so I had the place to myself for the first week. It was nice at first. The dorm had a sort of routine hum. People would come and go, doors slamming or the faint thud of the laundry machines. I was used to it within a couple of days. But the first night I stayed alone, something happened that made me rethink every sound I had previously ignored. It was late, around 11:30 p.m. I had just finished studying and was about to get in bed when I heard it, like a tap, but irregular. Not on the door, not on the walls, but somewhere else. I paused, trying to pinpoint it. I told myself it was probably just the pipes or some building settling. Dorms make weird noises all the time, right? I shrugged it off and got into bed, pulling the blanket over my shoulders. That's when it happened again. This time it wasn't just a tap. It was a thumping sound, like something heavy hitting the floor above me. I live on the 3rd floor. My first thought was someone dropping something upstairs, maybe moving boxes or furniture. I tried to focus on my phone to distract myself, but after a few minutes the sound stopped. I breathed a sigh of relief and tried to sleep. The next morning nothing seemed out of place. Classes, breakfast, the usual chatter in the hallways. I laughed it off when I mentioned it to a friend. He said, "Dorms are weird. You'll get used to it." I didn't really believe her, but I let it go. That evening, the feeling of being unsettled returned. I was alone again. My roommate wasn't back yet. I was sitting at my desk, headphones in, trying to focus on homework when I heard it. The sound of a chair scraping against the floor. Only problem was I was in my room. I looked around. No one was there. I didn't know what to do. I tried calling my roommate, but she didn't answer. I told myself to just leave the room and go to the common area until my roommate returned. I grabbed my bag and opened the door. That's when I saw it, a small, subtle detail I hadn't noticed before. My window was slightly open. I always keep it closed. It was locked that morning. I closed it and locked it, but the feeling didn't go away. That night, every time I tried to sleep, I heard it again. Something tapping, something dragging, always near my bed, but never exactly there. I didn't see anyone, but I knew somehow that someone had been in my room. By the 3rd night, I couldn't stay in the dorm anymore. I asked my roommate if I could crash in his off-campus apartment. He said yes immediately. I packed quickly, taking only essentials. When I got to his place, I tried to calm down. I told myself it was over, that it was just some weirdo prank or a coincidence. But then I realized something. I had left my laptop in the dorm. It wasn't expensive or anything, but it had all my work for the semester. I decided I would go back the next day to get it during the day when people were around. The next morning I texted the RA and asked for access to my room. They gave me the okay. I walked in trying to act casual. I froze the moment I opened the door. My desk drawers were open, my books were scattered on the floor, and my laptop, it was gone. I ran to the RA's office explaining everything. They were skeptical but said they'd review the security cameras. I waited nervously. When they showed me the footage, my stomach sank. The cameras in the hallway had caught someone entering my room in the middle of the night. What made it worse was, it wasn't a stranger. It was someone from the dorm, a student I recognized. Someone I had seen every day, smiling, nodding in the hallway. I couldn't believe it. The footage showed them walking casually down the hall at 2 a.m. using a key card that wasn't theirs, opening my door and rifling through my things, then just as calmly they left. I pressed the RA to identify them. Turns out they were a student who had lived in the dorm last semester but had been banned for multiple incidents of breaking into rooms. Somehow they had gotten back in. No one had noticed. No one had thought to check. I got my laptop back eventually, but that feeling never left me. I stayed with my roommate for the rest of the semester. I changed all my locks, reported everything I could, and avoided that dorm entirely. Even now, months later, I still feel it. The memory of knowing someone had been in my room, had touched my things, had moved through my space while I slept without me knowing. That's a feeling that doesn't go away. If you ever move into a dorm, don't ignore the little things. Don't leave windows unlocked. Don't assume your space is private. And most importantly, don't convince yourself that weird noises or small changes aren't worth noticing. Because sometimes the warning signs are all you get. I never thought something like this could happen in a place that was supposed to be safe. I was 19, starting my sophomore year at a university in the Midwest, living in the dorms again. You know, the classic setup. 2 small rooms, cheap fluorescent lights, hallways, old carpet. I thought college dorm life was going to be this exciting, carefree time. But I was about to learn just how quickly things can turn ugly in a place where everyone's supposed to feel at home. It started a couple of weeks after move-in. My dorm was a standard 2-story building, old but sturdy. I had a roommate, Tyler. He was a quiet guy, kept to himself mostly, but we were friendly enough. The first week was normal: classes, cafeteria food, late-night pizza runs. The kind of mundane that makes you think nothing bad could ever happen here. But then little things started happening. At first they were minor, almost laughable. My window would be unlocked in the morning even though I was sure I'd locked it the night before. My laundry detergent went missing, and once someone had moved my backpack from the corner of my room to the desk. I figured it was Tyler messing with me. He denied it every time, acting like he didn't even notice. I laughed it off because, well, who else could it be? Then one night things got really weird. I stayed up late studying for a chemistry test. Around 1 a.m., I decided to grab a snack from the vending machine in the lobby. The dorm was quiet, almost unnervingly so. When I got back to my room, the door was slightly ajar. I'm careful with my door, I always lock it. My stomach sank. I stepped in slowly. Nothing was out of place. My bed was made. Tyler was asleep, his side of the room untouched. I chalked it up to me being paranoid and locked the door again, double-checked everything, and went back to studying. The next day, the weird stuff escalated. My laptop was open when I came back from class. I was certain I had shut it down before leaving. On top of that, I noticed some of my textbooks had been rearranged, but not in a neat way, like someone had been rifling through them. Tyler didn't see anything suspicious, but I could tell he was uneasy too. Then came the night that made me realize this wasn't harmless or random. I was alone in the room. Tyler was out with friends. I was trying to sleep, but I kept hearing these faint tapping sounds. Not a regular noise from the building. It's like someone lightly knocking on my desk. I told myself it was the pipes or the old building settling. But then I heard it again coming from the other side of the room. I froze. My heart was pounding. Then I noticed my backpack, the one I always left in the corner, had been zipped open. and inside my wallet was missing. My chest tightened. This wasn't random anymore. Someone had been in my room, someone had been going through my stuff. I reported it to campus security, of course. They came by, took a report, but there was nothing they could do. No fingerprints, no sign of forced entry. I was told it could have been another student or someone who had a master key. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't trust anyone. The weeks after that were tense. I kept my laptop and wallet with me at all times. I started locking everything I owned in my closet. Still, the strange incidents didn't stop. One night, my shoes were soaked with water, even though I had left them dry by the door. Another time, someone had thrown my textbooks across the room. I started paying attention to the patterns. It always happened at night, usually when I was alone. Nothing was stolen that could be used for money except for the one time with my wallet. Most of the time it was just stuff moved around, little things that made me question my own sanity. I tried talking to Tyler about it, but he insisted nothing was happening. I didn't blame him for not believing me. I didn't even want to believe it at first. But after a month of this, I knew I couldn't ignore it. I started sleeping with my backpack under my pillow, my phone close, ready to call campus security at the first sign of trouble. Then one night I was lying on my bed staring at the ceiling, trying not to panic after hearing my closet door creak open. I didn't move. And then I heard it. The sound of my drawers being opened. My stomach sank. Whoever it was, they were bold enough to come into my room while I was awake. I held my breath. I waited, and then I realized I could hear someone moving toward the door. I bolted. I didn't grab anything. I just ran out into the hallway in my socks. I didn't even care that it was 2 a.m. I screamed for Tyler, but the hallway was empty. The lobby was empty. I ran to the front desk and pounded on the glass, demanding someone answer. The security officer came down immediately, surprised to see me shaking. We searched the building room by room, no sign anyone had been there. But I knew what I heard. I knew what I felt. That night I didn't sleep in the dorm again. I stayed in a friend's apartment off campus. After that, I requested a room change. Campus security finally agreed it wasn't the first time someone had reported being targeted in that dorm. I packed my things, moving to a newer building across campus. Tyler moved with me, but we never talked about it again. Even after moving, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been in my old room. I kept thinking about those small, meaningless actions, the moving of items, the water in my shoes. Years later, I ran into a guy who had been in that dorm the year after I moved out. He told me about another student, same floor, same pattern, things moved, minor thefts, creepy notes. Nothing was ever solved. Campus security chalked it up to pranks. But when you live through something like that, you know the difference. It's been years since that year in the dorm, but I can't forget it. I still check my doors twice. I still make sure my belongings are secure. And when I hear about students moving into old dorms, I get this chill thinking about how easily it could happen again to anyone. If you enjoyed these horror stories, make sure to hit like and subscribe to Mr. Terrifying for more horror stories. And remember, even places that feel safe aren't always what they seem. Stay alive.